Oh, okay. Thank you, Officer Evans. Um, Mr. Kendrick has a warrant.
And we are back, y'all. Go ahead and hit that like button. Hit the like button for Yak Gotti, y'all, who unfortunately will be in prison for Christmas Eve, for Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. The only person, as you can see here, Thugger Daily is pointing out, the only person found not guilty on all charges in this most recent case that Yak has had to fight, this RICO case from Fonnie Willis, the only person found absolutely not guilty is still in jail. Now, what we're trying to figure out is how the heck can this happen, y'all? As you may know, the other day, a few days ago, Kayla Bumpus was representing Yak in court before Judge McBurney, and Judge McBurney, he seemed to be lining up different conditions under which Yak may be able to get a bond and get free. But getting a bond means that Yak is still fighting charges. So what are the charges related to? Well, you probably have seen by now. If not, we'll just play a little bit of that later on in this video so you can see what the accusations against Yak are. Yak picked up some additional charges while he was in jail. In other words, while he's in jail, going through this whole RICO trial rigmarole for 2.5 years, he picked up a few charges in jail, and somehow and still mysteriously, while Yak is in Fulton County custody, Fulton County was able to issue a warrant for what? Is it for his arrest? I'm still not totally clear how you get a warrant out for you when you're in the custody of the same entity that wants you for, I don't know. Nobody has enlightened me on that as of now. But they did issue a warrant for his detention. They issued a warrant for Yak the day of, or the day after even, he went to court to try to get a bond, and he was denied his bond for that reason. Now, it does look like Yak will probably, hopefully, be able to resolve that warrant situation, but maybe not right now. Now, as Thugger Daily points out here, Yak has a probation revocation hearing before Judge Melanie Lethbridge, which is going to be on on February 7th, 2025. So in about 2 months, more or less, at 9:30 a.m. So if this is televised, of course, we will cover it. Now, the interesting thing that you will notice is that Judge Melanie Lethbridge, where have we seen that name before? Y'all, this is wild. Judge Melanie is the same person who signed Yak's warrant, who signed the warrant for arrest of probationer on December 18th, the day after he was denied bond for having a warrant. So if I am going to summarize this again, Yak goes in for a warrant on December 17th, 1/7. The day is December 1/7. The judge says, "Oh, you have a warrant out." So the judge this is Judge McBurney. He's like, "I didn't know that." Well, we need to clear that up before we can talk about this bond. The next day, this Judge Lethbridge signs the warrant. So was it even active, or was there even a warrant the day before when Kendrick was denied bond for having a warrant? That, again, somebody enlighten me. So now we have this judge who both signed his warrant, and the same judge is going to hear his probation revocation. Now, a lot of people are starting to draw some kind of connections between Judge Melanie Lethbridge and Fonnie Willis. Different times that they may have worked together, they do work together. I mean, she's a judge and Fonnie's the DA. So on some level, they're going to have a professional relationship. That's to be expected. But certain people may feel that there might be some corruption afoot. So, Yak is being railroaded, y'all. I think there's a protest coming up. If so, I will link to that information. I'll put that information in the description of this video. Also, I'm going to go right into, again, a description from a different prosecutor, the prosecutor that was at Yak's bond hearing, where he says what Yak did. And to top it all off, I will also include where that prosecutor says there may be yet another charge that they want to pin onto Yak. There's even more things they could charge him with, but of all of those other things, they may just charge him with one of those things. So y'all, this is, it's disappointing. But what Yak is accused of having done in jail is a pretty serious crime. I mean, let's just keep it real. It's a pretty serious crime. Either way, I do think he should be able to get bond. I think he should be able to go home, be with his family, and if he has to face those charges to resolve those charges, at least let the man, after 2.5 years, go home and resolve those charges from a standpoint of being free, because he did beat the RICO charges, and that's what he was being held on in the first place. So y'all, give me your comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And again, we'll just flow right into the prosecutor, his telling of what Yak did to have this warrant out for his arrest. Again, they're arresting somebody who's already in their custody. I don't know how that happens. Somebody help me. How is it that you can have a warrant out for your arrest when you're in the custody of the people who want to arrest you? Somebody make it make sense. Anyway, y'all, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and see y'all in the next one.
Your Honor, it's the feds picked up this state case. So they're not two separate crimes.
Got it.
This 2015 is the federal case.
All right, so there just was dual sovereigns, and Mr. Kendrick got squeezed in both places.
Yes, Judge. So not two separate acts. And in me saying that, I don't know if this brings any or can help us get clarity on the warrant, because my client's understanding is that the federal probation then trumped the state probation, and he was to be reporting to federal probation because they had taken over this case.
Well, I don't think legally it would be that the state probation goes away. There's supervised release, that's what they call it on the federal side. And it may well be that Mr. Kendrick had a very clear understanding with DCS, state probation, hey, you report to those federal folks. But that doesn't mean there wasn't a probation clock ticking and running throughout. And so what's been brought to my attention is that there may be a probation warrant situation as a result of these two cases. So as is par for poor Mr. Kendrick, everything's all connected. And so it may be deemed a violation of his state probation from the 2015 case that he got mixed up with having contraband and was allegedly part of the assault of Mr. Wimber. And you know that's how it flows. And so if that warrant is out there, then we need to work through that, and setting a bond doesn't make a lot of sense to everyone.
Yes, Judge. The defendant stands before you having been indicted on two separate cases, which opposing counsel presented to the court. The aggravated assault, aggravated battery occurred on June 17th of this year, where the defendant is alleged to have been the main perpetrator amongst 7 co-defendants who've also been indicted, to my understanding, performing essentially a vicious beating and assault on a fellow inmate, Detrell Wembley, causing severe lashes to his back by using electrical cords to essentially whip the victim in that particular case, causing bruises both to his back, neck, as well as his face. So
I'm a little familiar with that case because there's a co-defendant, Mr. Thomas, who had a very, very old murder. You know the history of that. It's a lot of co-defendants, and I'm wondering if you are able at this juncture to dissect that case enough to say, and we're particularly concerned because Mr. Kendrick had a lead role versus he held the door open with his foot, because my understanding, just from hearing a little bit from Mr. Thomas's co-defendant, Thomas's lawyers, is that not all, and they weren't acknowledging that anything happened, but that not all of the co-defendants were equally situated. And I think that has an impact on how to think through what bond would look like.
That's correct, Judge. And I think that's an accurate statement that not all defendants were similarly situated. What is clear from the Fulton County Sheriff's Office's investigation is that the defendant is the main perpetrator behind the assault on the victim in this particular case. Between 7:55 p.m. On the night of June 16th up until 8 a.m. the following morning is when the assault is alleged to have occurred. And the reason why they're able to provide that time frame is because in that surveillance video that they observed, Mr. Kendrick appears to be the main perpetrator going into the cell where the victim was, and he remained there the entire time. And by he, I mean the victim. The victim remained there.
Got it. Do you have any visibility into whether your office is going to be bringing other cases from these other incidents? And I ask not to press or speed anything, but more so for a management, frankly. I mean, Ms. Bumpus needs to know what she and her client are up against. And I know that your office exercises discretion and doesn't indict every little scuffle that happens at the jail. Is it safe to assume that your office has filtered through that and we've got the two cases, the contraband and the assault? Or what's your sense? I know you're not committing the office, you're not in that unit, but you do have some managerial perspective.
From my understanding, Judge, there is one unindicted case that's been brought to our office. So I'm going to take a look at that and make a determination. With respect to the other ones, without committing anything to the court, I don't believe we'll be going forward on any of those.
Okay, so they would be at most, if Mr. Kendrick would go to trial, could be 404B or could be linked to one of these other situations. Or it would be something in aggravation at a bond hearing or at a sentencing hearing. Is your best forecast with maybe one exception.
That's correct.